Happy Sunday, folks. This is Charlotte Cornegay coming live to you guys with another Forever Friends Academy episode. How are you doing? Hope you've had a wonderful weekend and a nice, relaxing Sunday. So much that you're by your phone and you will come on and have a real nice conversation with me tonight. So, as per usual, I'm happy to be on here with you guys tonight. Another day above ground is a blessing, right? So let me introduce myself for those who might be newcomers, who might, cross my little area of the internet. My name is Charlotte Cornegay. I am an author, a recording artist, creator of Interact Coaching and Forever Friends Academy, and this is my show of the same name. And we talk about all relationship topics. If you have come across me, definitely what I aim to do is help people develop lasting relationships that last a lifetime, and I'm a firm believer that, that true, authentic, real love that can withstand all of the challenges of life still does exist, So we talk about all different relationship topics here, but that is my aim. So just in case you're wondering, I wonder if this is for me, if you are a person who wants to fortify your relationships in every relationship dynamic that you have in every area of your life, then I'm the person. At least I hope I'm the person that you'll come to listen to certain fundamental principles that I offer that will help you go through all the stages, of relationships that we go through. So that is enough about the coaching side of what I do. Outside of relationship coaching, I am a singer-songwriter. On stage, I go by Charlotte K. Definitely just Google, that's Charlotte with an S. Google my name or put my name in your favorite music platform of choice. And hopefully, you can peruse my music and hopefully I'll get, you'll be my kindred. You'll like the songs that I put out. So definitely working on some new songs for you guys. Y'all pray for me. I feel like I get this boost of energy to do it, and then it's like, then the energy gets sucked out. So, I've started the songs. I just have to complete them to get them to you guys. So, put a little prayer out for me for that, all right? So I can get the music to you guys, But I do believe things happen in the right timing. So, but at the same time, I do want to, get it to you guys as fast as possible. Hey, Emily, how are you, love? Thank you for joining with me tonight. So let's get into tonight's topic. We did the whole rundown of the introduction. So we have been having a continual conversation, and the way that I've kind of expressed it is the pathway of true connection in relationships. And it also has been, which I hope it's been tackling and giving people, I guess, a process of how to get to really having great communication and authentic communication that leads to listening, understanding, and then the very end, right, which is full submission on both people's parts, right? Where we know to experience true love and connection, we need the full submission, meaning letting go of your fear, letting go of your selfishness, you letting go of pride, etc., to be able to, get to the truth of the matter and then nurture the relationship from there, and pouring into the relationship over everything else, right? Because it is its own entity, and if you do, hopefully, right? I mean, I think you guys let me know. I know for me, experientially, the relationships that, I pray, and I pray that God helps me to navigate this life where, and so far, so good, right? Where I can learn from each relationship that I have, whether it be the most optimal or whether it be one that, caused me some hurt, heartache, pain, etc., that I will take from it and grow through it. But on the other side, I think we all look for the relationships where it's reciprocal and reciprocal engagement, reciprocity on the give and receiving, and you can grow and you can align with each other. So this process that we've been talking about, I'm hoping that when people are listening, that some of the process that we lay out, as well as the tips and tools and advice that we give, you can add, apply to your relationships and develop stronger communication skills with each other, right? So let's get into it. I think, Emily, I just want to make sure. I think I got a comment. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Emily's talking about the weather because she's by me, weather where we live. And it is raining right now. So, but let's get into tonight's statement. So I'm not going to say the whole statement because I have been doing that. Just check if you're on with me right now. Check out the other two previous podcasts where I say the complete statement, but I just feel like doing it over and over and again. I don't want to keep you guys longer than necessary. So what I will do, though, is restate the two statements that we talked about on extensively on the previous podcast, and then go into what we're going to talk about tonight. So the statement goes like this. The beginning part of the statement goes, some people hear, but they don't listen. Some people listen, but they don't understand. Some people understand, but don't accept. And that is the statement that we're on tonight, which is some people understand, but don't accept. So, of course, you guys know those who are on with me most of the come on with me so nicely. You know that I usually point out a question to you guys, and pretty much it's been the continuation of the questions that I posed with the other two statements, which is, if you're having a conversation with someone, right, and we all want to grow and progress, and they're like, okay, yeah, feel like I got a good footing where, if I hear something, I'm not letting it just pass away in the wind, right? I'm tuning in and hearing with alertness, and keeping my eyes, my awareness on a heightened level, to where I'm not missing pertinent messages and things that are coming my way. So I'm getting to the point of where I can listen now, and I'm getting to the point where the listening is translating to understanding for me. But if they're like, okay, I'm understanding something, but I haven't gotten to the place of accepting. So that's what I've been asking people. If you're having this conversation with this person and they're saying this, like, okay, I feel like certain things I do understand, but I have a hard time when I get to certain situations or aspects or challenges of life to come to a place of acceptance. Like, I feel like I'm a person that when something comes to me, resistance is my first kind of go-to, right? And I want to let that go because I feel like it's causing me more inner turmoil than it is providing me solutions to where I can move forward. What would you say to that person, right? So I guess it's twofold. Understanding and accepting, how would you describe the difference to someone, number one? And two, let's say that's that same someone, they're saying what I just stated to you, like, okay, I get to a place of where I understand certain things, but when it comes to a deeper level of acceptance, I feel more resistance inside my being, and I don't really know how to get to that place. What would you say to them? Right? What would you say to go, hey, OD, how are you? So what would you guys say, to that person? And I know, it's, I guess it's a simple statement, but also can be complex. That is me. Simple, I told the viewers earlier on when I first came on for the new year, I asked everyone, I was like, oh, do you have a word or a statement or phrase that's bringing you into the new year? And mine there were 3 words. It was accountability, simplicity, and basically repetition. And I told them, the way that I'm wired, I love, dissecting complex, layered ideas and systems and things like that. But I'm trying to learn, y'all, to make it more simplistic. So I apologize if it's not there yet, y'all, but I'm trying. All right. So yeah. So what do you think? And I guess, do you agree with that statement? Some people understand, but they don't accept, So while I'm waiting, if there are folks who are so kindly willing to type out the answers to me, and I really have to, because you guys can call in, and I really need to step up my game and put the number in so you guys can call. For some people who like, I don't feel like typing right now, Charlotte. You can kind of just get on with me. So you guys hold me accountable. All right. Within the next 2 weeks, I'm going to make sure I roll out the number so I can actually start accepting calls from you guys. So hold me accountable. All right. But yeah, do you agree with the statement? Some people understand, but they don't accept. And what do you think that means? And if you've come across a person, or maybe you're a person listening right now and you feel like that's you, like, I have great understanding when it comes to certain things, but when it comes to having to process it on a deeper level to where I can say this thing that I'm understanding, I have acceptance of it, I find that I'm more resistant than I am accepting of it. So while I'm waiting for answers from you guys, if anyone's going to type and be so nice to type for me in the conversation tonight, I want to share some quotes that I found as I was researching this, because I told some of the other participants on my other episode, my previous episode that I was on, that I have Forever Friends Academy, where I do group coaching, group private coaching sessions, and I introduced our whole into beginning of the new year, January and February was all the sessions were centered around this process of communication, or process to getting true connection in relationships. And so when I was doing that, I came across some quotes. So I want to share it with you guys tonight while I wait to see if anybody has an answer or a reply or response, etc. And one of the quotes that stood out to me, I'll give you guys two of them. The first one was, happiness can exist only in acceptance. Happiness can exist only in acceptance. And another one that I liked was, the first step towards change is awareness, and the second step is acceptance. The first step to change is awareness, and the second step is acceptance. And that's Nathaniel Brandon. And I didn't give you guys, the first one is unknown. No wonder I didn't give it to you guys. So I thought that was, those are some interesting quotes that I came across. But I have lovely Emily. I have a reply from her. Emily said yes, because sometimes you have a feeling that something is going to happen or has occurred, but you don't want to accept that because it's not ideal for you, okay? So I think she's saying yes, she agrees with the statement, and then she gave me a reason why. And absolutely, there were certain things that automatically came to my mind when I thought of this statement. Immediately, because I'm a believer in Christ, I thought about how people can understand, even research the scientific, evidence of Christ's existence, but not accept Christ as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords and things like that. So I thought of that, number one. Then two, on a lower tier of just our relationships, exactly what Emily said. I've definitely had experiences where I have coached clients who were, I'm reluctant to say relationship because I think they were coming to me to try to figure out what it was, And I remember cases where you would have someone in the session say well, I really just don't know if I want to be with this person, and they would lay it out and they would say certain reasons, and the other person who desired the relationship so much, even though they understood and the person laid out what they were saying, the desire of what they wanted or what they believed they deserved literally just would knock the truth of what the other person was saying it would just disregard it and displace and say, well, no, but, you know, I want to be with this person, and they would go on, like in whatever dynamic it is, even if it wasn't a solidified, committed relationship where you knew both of them were in alignment and saying, this is the next step that we're going to take towards. So I thought of that definitely, because I've seen, whether it's in clients that I've coached or just in right casual conversations that you have with people where literally that's the dynamic, and you're like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, I understand it, but I'm not really accepting what is really going on in real time. So I totally understand. Love that feedback, Emily. And Justin, hey, Justin, how are you? Thank you for popping in. Okay. In general, this is OD. He says, in general, I definitely agree with the notion that one can understand and yet not accept. It hits differently depending on its application, academics, relationships, etc. What do you mean it hits differently? Like, I'm curious to see, what do you mean? And I'm to kind of like piggyback off of what you said, what you're saying, OD. I definitely was thinking about this in the perspective of especially someone who's, again, a believer, right? Or somebody who has, I don't think you're going to navigate this life without putting your faith in something. Whether it's faith in building your business, whether it's faith to your higher power, you need faith to navigate this life. And so I thought about, this statement, some people understand, but they don't accept. Sometimes people who would hear that might say, well, I'm not going to accept this because it's going to, I put my faith in the place of accepting what this thing is, that this challenge or this situation that I'm confronting right now, and what I would say to someone who might have heard the statement, who is listening right now, who is thinking about that, is that when you accept something, you see something for what it truly is, it does not mean that you have to stay at a certain point or place if it's a space and stage in your life that you are not comfortable with, or a space where you don't feel like you have tapped into your fullest potential, right? But we do have to identify where we are to be able to know the progression that needs to occur to get to that place, right? So it doesn't disregard your faith. It actually, acceptance empowers faith, because if you accept what it is that's going on, and then you understand that you also have your faith, then you can use the faith that you have, right, to kind of empower you to, tread whatever course or plan whatever thing that you are going to put in place to get to the next point that you want to get to, So, I definitely thought about it in that context when I thought about presenting it to you guys. So, and OD says, got you. Reese, I think he said spirituality. Personally, I believe acceptance of a truth, situation, person, etc., has to do with one's mental and emotional maturity. Yeah, definitely. I 1,000% agree with you. And you weren't on for the other the beginning stages of this conversation, because this is pretty much a part of a long statement. And so we talked about people, there are some people who hear but don't listen, right? Meaning, like, you'll hear something, and many of us do it throughout the day, and we disregard it and we don't lean into it in our daily routines, right? Can kind of somewhat deaden the alertness that we kind of navigate life with. And then we talked about that there are people who will listen but don't understand, right? They can listen to something but not really truly get to a place of understanding, and then hence where we are here. So I believe what I tried to lay out was kind of like a step-by-step process of how, right, we can kind of get to a pathway to really, really, really get to the point of complete submission within ourselves, right, or to the truth, to be able to experience love in the fullest potential or fullest capacity, and be able to live our life as well in that fullest capacity. So I agree with you. It does take maturity, and I think it takes practice, not dismissing the truth. I have a saying that I say all the time here on the podcast, that don't forsake the wisdom that God has placed inside of you for the knowledge that's presented to you daily. And I think that is, that is literally, the tool that we have to take in every single day, because every single day there are distractions that come our way, to shift, that wisdom, and let us not lean more towards and allow that wisdom to guide us. So I completely agree with you. And he said, and furthermore, I also believe it's impossible to accept something and yet not embrace. OD, you're not even in my backyard. You came in my house. You came in my house, and I'm about to kick you out my room because, like, literally, right? It's a whole statement that I created for my private group coaching, and literally the next statement from this one is that some people accept but they don't receive, and then some people receive but they don't embrace. So that's why I say you all the way. That's you. We on the same spiritual Wi-Fi. That's what that is. So yeah, we didn't get there yet, but we definitely are going to talk about those things, because I like to dive into the nuances that are in certain words that we use, that sometimes we use interchangeably, but really do have distinctive differences. So I appreciate you. You're ahead of the game. You're in alignment with me, but ahead of the game when it comes to what we're talking about tonight. But I completely, there are deeper levels, right? And sometimes, whether it's us wanting to experience the fullest potential of love or fullest capacity of love within an intimate relationship or a familiar relationship, or as I always talk about, just pursuing your purpose in life and really coming to the full determination that I'm just going to keep on going until I get it done. These are kind of the stair steps that sometimes we will find, whether it's the resistance that we're creating within ourselves or the challenges that will just naturally come to prove, for us to prove ourselves, or for us to go through the fire, and come out more refined so that we can do it to the best of our capabilities. I think these are the things, the little things that we don't talk about, the degrees and the difference is between hearing and listening, understanding and accepting, and that there are differences. And those differences, when you look at them, you can experience a different type of impact, right? When you can okay, no, there's a difference between me just kind of listening to this thing and then just kind of just walking on by, versus me truly getting a understanding of it. And then there's a difference when the understanding now leads to an acceptance, right? Where it has more of a kind of like an alignment with my moral compass, or it's now been more embedded into the things that I deeply believe, so that I can accept it, So yeah, you're definitely ahead. You're definitely ahead of the game. But I'm so glad you said it, because you come up with well, let me not say you know, you come up with, I come up with certain things, and you feel, as I like to say, it's like hot off heaven's press, meaning like, oh wow, I've never heard it that way before. Not to say that it hasn't been, just in my circles or things that I've heard or seen. I've never heard it put exactly in the way that I, scripted the statement, and I just was like, wow. With each statement, it hit me differently. So I love when someone else, who I don't know personally, comes and says something that is along the lines, of what I'm presenting. It, for me, it offers a sign like, okay, yeah, Charlotte, you in the right, you're hearing right. You're on the right path. So I appreciate that. I love all of you guys' answers. I love all of you guys' answers. I think what I would, if I still have you guys on with me, is ask you, of course, what, if experientially you've dealt with something like that, what would you tell someone? What's the process or the things that you incorporated for yourself that you feel like helped you to get to a place of just understanding, to acceptance, and acceptance is a big deal. I was just talking to a beautiful young lady, a teenager today, and I was just kind of talking to her about, image and what now. The question I asked her was, what is like the culture scape in your generation? Are they still in the whole, body image BBL type? Want to have curves, and like, how is it, or is it changing? What is that? And I was just asking her how she navigates that, and she so mature for her age. She was just saying, I don't know if it's particularly my generation alone. She was saying, I just feel that just acceptance is just all around. It doesn't matter what generation you are in, that it seems people have a hard time coming to a place just of acceptance or feeling that they're good enough, for whatever it is. So I think this conversation is important. It's so layered. It could be applied in, as OD said, in so many different life areas and different contexts. But I think no matter where you apply it, I think the truth of the fact that it's important to come to a place of acceptance, to be able to grow, grow and be able to move forward or higher, or come to a greater version of whatever you believe, that next stage is for you in your life. Yeah, so I think it's an important conversation overall, and I appreciated her answer, because I said that it's so true. It's like, no matter what generation you go to, people seem to always have to kind of cross that bridge. And in my private group coaching, as we've been going through this conversation, even on here on the live, I always state the statement, and then I also put, you know, hear with blank, listen with blank, and and like to hear the words that people place there. So I'm going to do it to you guys tonight, and it can tie into the question I've already asked you, as far as what you would tell, what advice or what tips you would give someone who wants to maybe feel like they can let go of the resistance that comes. Because many of us, when we go through change, right, acceptance is one of the hardest pieces, when change occurs. And when you don't accept, then navigating the change can become it can become an ordeal, because it's the first part of it, to figure out how to navigate the change. How do you navigate the change if you don't accept it? right? So one, should I say? Well, yeah, I'll say mine. While you guys are thinking, if you are, I'll state what I told my private group coaching session. I said, accept with humility and transparency. Accept with humility and transparency. And the way that I describe humility, for those of you who might not know, I've written two books, but the second book that I wrote is titled Seven Stages of Loving Relationships. And in the book, I define humility as seeing something for what it really is, right? Seeing something for what it really is. And so I say to, right, acceptance is that. And it reminds me of a quote, and I'm going to state that quote to you guys, because that was also one of the ones that kind of stood out to me. And oh, this is also from someone who's unknown, but anyway, I'll state it to you guys. The quote says, "Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means understanding that something is what it is and that there's got to be a way through it." I so love that. Let me say it again because that's how much I love it. It says, acceptance doesn't mean resignation. And I think that's so important. It means understanding that something is what it is and that there's got to be a way through it. And again, I came across it, but it says unknown. There's another one I'll give to you guys tonight that I really, really do love. It's from the great Martin Luther King Jr. And he said, "We must accept our limits." No, I'm sorry. Let me say that again. "We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope." So I'll say that again because I absolutely love that one as well. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. And I think that goes back to what I was stating in the beginning of this conversation, how for some people, when they accept certain things, they feel like it's going to bring them in a down spiral of hopelessness. And that's not really the truth, depending on the maturity level, as OD Brando has expressed. When you have and you understand, when you couple whatever it is that you're going through, whatever, if it's a challenge you're facing, if it's an uncomfortable situation, if it's just something or relationship that ended up not in the light that you, or not in the vision, the way you envisioned it, either lasting or ending, etc. If you couple every situation that you go through with the truth that faith is a real thing, and it is something that you can, muster up. Just like that statement says, that the finite disappointment, you can accept that, whatever it is, as it is, as it truly is in the moment. But it doesn't mean that you have to lose infinite hope, right? It doesn't mean that you can't utilize your faith to help you navigate those waters to get to a better experience or a better place, or you know what I mean. So absolutely love that. So that's why I say humility first, right? We need humility in our acceptance process because we don't want to. Oftentimes, the resistance that we have when we don't want to accept is, right, no, I want this version, like the statement that I brought up, or the example about the couple, where it's like, okay, this person is saying, I don't want to be with you. Like, I want to be with you maybe like 10%. I'll often ask the couples that come to do private sessions with me, and maybe they're having either hiccups in the relationship, or they're trying to figure out if this person is the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with. And I'll ask them, like, how much, if you could say a percentage, like how much percentage do you think it takes to say, I'm going to partner up with this person for the rest of my life? How much of you, percentage-wise, do you think it's going to take for you to fully show up in this relationship and commit? Like, what do you think? You know? And maybe sometimes when they reflect on their self in the session, and they'll say, well, right now I feel like I'm giving, I can show up for like 70%, or 80%. And I'll say, it's really, it's a 0% or 100%. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I've been married, so I understand. And I mean, I'm still married. I'm saying I've been married, like we still together, happily at that. But I'm saying that I've been married for a while, and so I understand, as any married person who has been married for years and years, 15, 20 years, 30, etc. You know that it's not 100% each time, right? Even though that may be the case, that maybe sometimes I'm showing 80%, in something that I'm doing because of whatever the season we're in, and vice versa. But you still come with the understanding that it takes 100% though, right? So you're going to go full throttle. It's like an example. I know, depending on how I'm feeling on the day, if I'm exercising, I'm trying, the 100% looks different, right? Like if I'm sick and have a cold, that 100% on that day is going to look different, but I'm still not negating the fact that I need to try whatever that 100% is for that moment. That's what I'm going to try to offer, right? And if I offer it and I don't land exactly at whatever that optimal 100% would be, I still have the understanding, the truth of the matter, that it's going to take me trying to offer the 100%, right? So that's what I mean, in that sense, when I say to them, like, it's 100%, man. It's not 75% ain't gonna do it. You have to have it in your heart. You have to have it sold in your mind, and in that it's going to take all of me, to be able to walk every single day, and live every single day and love, unconditionally every single day in this relationship, if it's really going to last, right? And that's going to take 100% from me, always striving to give 100%, even if I land, because my humanness less than, right? So that's what I mean. So humility, seeing whatever it is, for what it is in the moment, in the real time, and not coming up with your own version, your own narrative, what you want it to be, what you desire it to be, etc. Just what it is, right? And then after that, I put transparency, because I think once and the reason why I put transparency, particularly for me, because as I stated at the very top, the first example that came to my mind, because I am a believer in Christ, was Christ, and how people can understand. You can read the Bible, you can understand the stories, you can even go beyond the biblical text, right? And see how the scientific evidence aligns with, everything, right? And that person can understand, I understand it, but I don't accept, I don't believe, and so I thought about the process of, my process as a believer, when I accepted Christ, and I, in humility, saw and accepted him for who he is and has been in my life. Then came the transparency, and what that mean, what that process was for me was like, okay, everything, like just putting everything, what I was feeling in the now, in that moment as it happened, and everything else that came before, like offering up all of my weaknesses, all of the things, weaknesses, strengths, everything, just offering all of those. It's just exposure, open and honest exposure of myself. And I was excited to, but of course the process of seeing yourself in the mirror, especially if there are certain things that you're like, man, especially if you didn't know, the more you get accustomed, and as I like to say, best friends with the truth, the more the truth exposes things about you, to you, or via other people that are placed in your life and around you. And so, the transparency starts to happen in all of those ways. And I just remember, even the things that didn't feel good to expose, there was a lot of freedom that came out of that, and healing that came, necessary healing that came out of it because of it, And so that was the example in regards to me being a believer, but that same type of process still occurred in my relationship and developing my friendship with now, right, my husband. It was definitely a lot of opportunities of acceptance, and the example that, hey, it's another one, Sparks, everything is well, I'm glad you popped on. I'm not jumping off as of yet, I have been on for a little while, but good to see you. The the example that comes to my mind is, as you guys who have been on before, but if you haven't, I met knew of my husband since I was like 13. I met him in high school, but we weren't hanging out during, at that age. We started hanging out really, really a lot when we both joined student council and we were 17. And the example when talking about acceptance, and that, accepting with humility and transparency, that I want to give to you guys is, I remember earlier on in the development of our friendship, and I think we kind of noticed that, okay, this this could potentially be more, right, than a friendship, or our friendship is getting like definitely a lot more intimate. And I remember, and I don't mean intimate like, touchy-feely or sex or anything like that. Just we were having deep, long conversations, and you can kind of know, like, wow, this is organic. It's kind of flowing. There really is not a lot of dissonance or resistance between us, and this is a really natural flowing friendship. And I could tell that, Ben wanted to know about me more on a deeper level. And, he's always been a direct person. I remember he said, I want to know everything about you, like, tell me everything. Tell me about your past relationships, your past history. I mean, and he said everything. Like, don't don't leave nothing out, And I always say this story because, I was 17. So you figure it's like, well, you're just 17. Like, what would you have to tell that you would, be ashamed of or anything like that? But I honestly felt by the time I was 17, I lived like the life of, just the things that I went through into my childhood. It was I had a story already to tell, but I wasn't so like open to like sharing it, and it I could feel the little bit of like resistance coming, inside of me, because I just was like, man, if I tell him these things, that this is my family life, like, fear of judgment, maybe, or maybe he can be like, ooh, let me let me back up from her. This is your family history. I don't know, but I shared everything with him, and in what happens as true friendships unfold is that, there is acceptance, and there's no judgment. And for me, I think that was an important, definitely, moment in our friendship that allowed me to know that this is a person that no matter what, whether we're growing towards like marriage or whether we're just gonna be friends, he definitely was like, okay, this is a person that could be my forever friend, because he presented an opportunity that also presented a challenge for me, and the process was him being like Christ towards me, and saying, tell me all of it, it doesn't matter, right? Because you are not what you're going through. You are not, you're not the process you're in. process that you're in. You're not the challenges that you face. You're not the failures that you've experienced or had or the mistakes that you've made. You're none of those things. So to have someone in your life, you know, hear all of those things that you might have reserves of expressing to another human being and hold that and say exactly, or do or demonstrate exactly what Christ would to you, and is to say, I see who you really are, regardless of all of those different things that you might have experienced, that you might have went through in your life, is like one of the most authentic experiences you could possibly ever have, right? And so without opportunities being presented like that to us, and without us being accepting of it and embracing, as O.D. Brando said, you don't get to experience that, And it's another, I always say, it's one thing to experience that and know that you have that through God, or through Christ and your higher power. But what we are supposed to be, right? Reflections of Christ, reflecting the light and love of God, is to be able to, right, stand in the gap and be that for another person and reflect that to another person in life, right? And often, unfortunately, sometimes, right, the humanness, we don't, before there can be any acceptance and accepting with humility and transparency, oftentimes the judgment comes first, So, that's definitely one thing that I thought about, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's definitely an example of where, it was an opportunity for me to cross the bridge from understanding literally my own processes that I went through to a deeper level of acceptance. And I think the key, like I said, takeaway is that even when you are exposing those things and you're accepting the things that either have happened to you or that you have done, that underneath that, right, like who you are as a spiritual being, who you are as a child of God, and a child of the King, is there, throughout all of those experiences, if you can allow yourself, to kind of peel back the layers and see that, right? So that's definitely something I wanted to example that I thought of. And oh my goodness, beautiful Eliana, how are you? Thank you guys for joining. You and It's Another One Sparks kind of came in later, but feel free to chime in. Tonight's topic is some people understand, but they don't accept. And it's a part of a long statement that I've been kind of going over. So the question that I put out tonight for anyone who wants to chime in is basically, first of all, do you agree with that statement? Secondly, what do you, I guess experientially, if you've been to in a situation like that, some of it, acceptance is not an easy thing for a lot of people in life. Whether it's accepting something that has happened to them, a situation they're currently in, having resistance from change. It comes in all kind of right different situations. So that's what we're talking about tonight. And if a friend came to you, or a loved one, or even your spouse came to you and said, I feel like I understand, but I'm having a hard time accepting. What would you say to them? What would you say? What is a tip? And I've kind of put it in this way, that as a statement, accept with blank, what would you put there? And to give you an example, we've had other statements to kind of start this conversation off. And so far, we've learned that we need to hear with alertness, because their statement was, some people hear, but they don't listen. So to be able to grow from hearing into listening, I said hear with alertness, because life happens to us and we get into our mundane kind of routine sometimes, and it starts to dampen our purpose. It starts to not make us really navigate life with heightened awareness and keenness, and we start to kind of not listen to the people who are put in our lives with a certain amount of honor and alertness, and saying, okay, I want to let me lean into what they're saying, rather than just say, oh, you always say that, or I always hear that from you, etc. It makes me think of my son. I say to my son pretty much almost every morning, I would like, you're brilliant, my handsome, my brilliant, you know, intelligent, God's child who will do great things in the world, right? Because, he's, this black young boy. And so I always want to, encourage him. And so I remember I asked him, I was like, do you think you're handsome? Do you think you're He's like, Mommy, I hear you say it all the time. He literally said it like that. He was like, you say it all the time. So of course, and then sometimes when I say it, of course, he might not want to get up and go to school. So he'll be like, oh my gosh, you don't have to say it. I hear it all the time, And so I'm like, you don't know how blessed you are, right? To have your mother's voice echo that to you every single day. Like you might, because of course, for him, he's like, you're annoying me. I don't want to hear this. You waking me up and I don't really want to go to school. But I'm just thinking like he has no idea how much, right, the seeds that I'm sowing in him to where he will be able to kind of go out into the world very boldly, knowing he's loved, knowing, right, so that when those words, which they most definitely will come, right, to challenge who he is, he'll hear my voice, and hopefully, merge that with the voice of God so that he knows who he is. So hearing with alertness, that's what that means, to where it's like, okay, let me remain keen. Let me remain alert, And then we talked about some people listen, but they don't understand. And for listening, I said, listen with your heart, because God is the only one who has the master key to your heart. The doubts, the battlefield often plays out in our mind, right? With the doubts, with the, oh, can I do this? Am I good enough? They call the devil the prince of the air because he has to come through your thoughts. He has to come, right? And try to have the thought penetrate and go down into your heart. And then you have to embrace and really believe that, right? For it to kind of start to act out in your life. So I said, listen with your heart, with, let's put this, I don't know if it's an addendum in, but I said the prerequisite is that you have to place God's wisdom and his word in your heart, right? Because people will say, you don't want to go with your heart because it'll make you do silly things, That's only because they misinterpret love to be an emotion, right? Just simply an emotion that can sway you instead of God being love and it being this consistent force full of truth, full of wisdom, full of awareness and, and everything that you need to kind of discernfully go through life. So the prerequisite is put God's word in your heart. And I gave them definitely all throughout Proverbs, you will hide the word of God in your heart, right? As you hear scriptures, from out of a man's heart, right, does, right, who he is, what he thinks, that it flows from all of that. So if you put God's word there and you use that to listen, then, right, what's being presented to you will be filtered through that wisdom and that truth. And it'll allow you, right, to navigate life with wisdom and truth. And so we're here today, except with blank. What would you say? Oh, thank you, Eliana. You are so beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate all of you guys coming in with all this encouragement. She said, love seeing your power. Your words are so encouraging. Oh, love you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm just trying to leave myself open. I always say on here, and I think I said it the last podcast, like, I'm not an expert, and I never claim to be. I know that God is the expert, and I know the fruits, that has been able to unfold in my life because of declaring that God is the expert over and over again, and then just leaving open space to do things that make me uncomfortable. Like this makes me, you know, I'm getting used to it more and more now, but it's still uncomfortable to be a public spectacle in any type of way, especially now. Oh my gosh, in the culture we live in, right? The internet is like, oh my goodness. It's like people just look for something to say just to bring you down, you know? So definitely takes a lot of courage. But whether I'm on here doing the podcast and talking to people, or whether I'm, you know, singing and then coaching, dealing with people's like sensitive, essential parts of their life. We're talking about people who, you know, dealing with marriages that are on the verge of divorce, or helping people navigate whether they feel like this is the relationship, you know, that they should partner up in. Those are very sensitive areas of people's lives that then also always, you know, go into other aspects of life. So it's a labor of love. It's frightening a lot of times, but I continue to do it because there's a deep acceptance and embracing that, okay, I know that you called me to do this. So even with the nitpicking that I probably do with just myself, you know, whether it's, oh man, I wish I would have articulated that in a better way. Oh, I wish I would have sung that note in a better way. You know, I wish I would have done, you know, made up that, constructed that coaching exercise better to bring clarity, and, you know, or in the moments where you have to bring direct truth to people and they don't necessarily want to hear it, you know, all of those things. But what keeps me going is a lot of the things that we're talking about tonight, and what we've talked about before, like hearing with alertness, listening with your heart, and accepting with humility and transparency, and laying all of those things out and knowing that God, you know, He makes up for whatever you feel like you are lacking in. You know what I mean? Anybody who's on here who has children, I'm sure if you're a parent, you felt this way before. You know, I remember my mother-in-law, God bless her, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful soul, because she's just, and she was just so amazing. Like the best mother-in-law, mother in love. I didn't even really call her my mother-in-law. I just called her my mom because she was just that beautiful. She accepted me from day one, even like before Ben and I even like really knew we were even going to be a thing. She was like, you can call me mom, you know. But her lovely soul, I remember her telling me that when she gave birth to Ben in the hospital, that she gave him to God. You know, she gave him to God. And I remember her telling me that, and it stuck with me. And I've done that with every one of my children. And it brings so much peace, because you guys let me know if anyone's on here who have children, of course, right? You can't be around them 24/7, you know, and all you want to do is protect, provide, and nurture. And you know that you can't be there 24/7. So it's like you offer that child up to God, and you pray that, you know, for the times that you can't be there with them, that God, you protect them. You put your angels on each side, and protect them, and equip them with the things that, you know, I might have missed, you know, which, you know, none of us are perfect. So I think in that same, you know, way, it having that type of mentality in whatever industry that you're in, and whatever it is that you're doing, when you remind yourself of that whatever you're putting forth, the effort that you're putting forth to pursue whatever your purpose is, to cultivate the relationship that you're in, strive to do your 100%, and know that whatever it is that you miss, that God will make up for it, you know. And I think one of the driving forces for me of why I'm so passionate about helping people develop relationships that last a lifetime, starting with the relationship that they have with their creator and themselves, to see themselves for who they really are, and then extend out into their intimate relationships and their familiar relationships and every other relationship that they have, is because I'm a poster board of God coming up, or coming into my life and making up for the lack. I didn't grow up with my mom for a very good portion of my life because, she had certain things that she was dealing with, and she wasn't able to kind of like fully raise us. And my father passed away when I was 7, so this acceptance, that statement, some people understand but don't accept. I definitely went through that in the first, years of my childhood, because it just was like, with my father, I think it was easier for me to accept because, of course, he died very young. He died at age 27. He just wasn't here physically, so it was kind of easier for me to kind of accept that, even though I had moments where it's like, oh man, of course, I wish my dad was here to protect me mainly, right? Because like when fathers aren't there, it's like the wolves come in, especially if you were like a young girl, pretty girl. Oh my gosh, it could be a beast out, navigating that. But for my mom, oh my goodness, that was like the real battle, because it was like, okay, what? She's here, but she's not here. So it's like, why? What is causing her to not to be able to be in my life? So it took a lot of letting go, of resisting that the acceptance of it. And my mom has struggled with mental illness, and I remember me just being like real young, like maybe 9 or 10, looking in medical journals and just trying to figure out like what it was and what the process of. That's probably why I am the way that I am now. That's why I thank my mom over and over again, like, within my heart, because I wouldn't be the person I am today without it. I wouldn't be the person who likes to look at systems and help people process things and connect dots that people aren't aware of. And that's what started that. So I'm grateful, and I understand what coming to a place of acceptance really does and how it empowers you. And I always tell the example in the story that for me, the pivot happened in my life when I heard, God's gracious voice and say, if your mother and father was there to love you, like you the most ideal situation for you, where would they be getting that from? And I heard it as clear as day. From you, God, and it's like, okay, well then what are you really looking for? Because if you're looking for love and somebody gives it to you, it is a reflection of of me. It's coming from the source. So if you can let go of this form that you want to receive love in, and hey, listen, rightfully so, right? Like as a child, rightfully so. You want it from your mother and your father, but that's not the cards that are dealt to you right now. But if you want to receive the love is still there. Starting by acknowledging that the love is within you. It's within you because I placed it in you. So if you want it, it's there for you. And then even on top of you acknowledging that it's within you, I will provide angels along your way to provide you and nurture you in the way that they are supposed to, if you're willing to let go of the form that you're holding on to with such a tight grip, and just embrace me in all the ways that I want to show up in your life. That was it for me. That was the turning point that gave me so much freedom, and I think was the point of bringing me to what I do now. in real time and in real life. That has thankfully been able to change people's lives. I was just talking to my nephew the other day, and I was just saying, sometimes I go through a battle of like, I want to get a broader reach. I feel like, and I'm sure anybody on here who has like a business or something they're passionate about, and mind you, this is not even something that I, at least the coaching part, right? I didn't set out to do that part. That was just kind of like, God was like, okay, yeah, you're going to do that, But definitely the singing part, like the arts, I always loved that. But I was speaking about the coaching aspect of helping people in their lives and relationships. And I was telling him, I go through a teeter-tottering of like, oh, I want to get a bigger reach, with also the reality and the understanding that the area that you're dealing with, Charlotte, is literally like a garden. When you're helping people expansively deal with one of the most central areas of life, which is relationships, the heartbeat of life, really, that's not a quick turnaround. It takes real work. It takes a discovering process. You're talking about helping people start families and rebuild marriages that might have been broken. People understanding and awareness, a greater awareness of who they are. Like, that's not a quick turnaround, So it's like, if you want to make an impact and you want to see if you're doing that, look at the fruit of the people who you've helped, and stay anchored in that, because the expansion of it will come, when in due time, when it's necessary. But even as those people come, still, those are areas in life that take time to grow. I guess it's that statement, if you're going to build something that's steadfast, if it's true, if it's strong, it's worth the wait. It's not going to be like, as they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to take time. So I say all that to say that wherever you are, if you came across this podcast tonight, that I hope the words that I've spoken really resonate with you and bless you, whether it's you thinking about a relationship that you're in, that you're uncertain of, that don't be afraid to say, God, show me what it truly is that I'm really in, what it is that I'm truly doing. And I know that, whatever the story, the script or story I've told myself, or even the thing that I think that I desire or deserve the most, I relinquish that, and I know that you know better. So help me to get into, first, a place in my heart posture, right? My heart posture to be open enough to accept where I am right now. And then I know that with the faith that you've given me, that you will provide me the resources and the tools to become better, to the best version that I know that you've created in me, and more importantly, help me enjoy the process, like through the highs, the lows, the valleys. Help me enjoy discovering just myself, because that part of me is what's my existence is, as I like to say, more than good enough. It's just right. God never makes anything that's not just right. And let me explore what that is, whether it be my skills, my talents, my ability to navigate relationships in the best way, however it comes to you, and kind of just come to a full acceptance there. I think that's the first acceptance. First acceptance is, okay, God, you made me just right. What does that entail? Let me enjoy and let me delight discovering that, because I know that once I start doing that, then when you place me around other people, they're going to delight discovering it too, because I've already started on the journey. So they'll be intrigued, like, oh, wow, You seem pretty, even though this world is going tipsy topsy turvy, right? Like upside down, you seem to be still anchored in a really good like spot. And just these storms that are kind of swirling around you don't seem to be throwing you off balance. How'd you get there? You know? And then you get to tell them. You get to tell them. So, but thank you for all, the folks that came in to say hi, and definitely for the folks who took time out to type because, yeah, that takes a lot to do. I appreciate you guys, but I told you, hold me accountable for the people on. I'm going to bring the number on so you guys can call me, and hopefully you guys won't be too shy. You'll come on the phone, call and be a caller, and show your beautiful or handsome faces and talk to me, and it might be a little easier than typing. So, but I appreciate you guys. Oh, thank you. Emily says she liked my earrings. I had to put on these earrings because my father-in-law bought them for me for Christmas, and they are very nice. So I was like, I gotta put them on one of my lives so I can show him, like, look, see. I was like, it was either that or an album cover, so he knows. Because when he buys you something, he likes, like, where is it, So I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Emily. But I appreciate all of you guys. And like I said, hopefully something that you heard resonated with you. And I hope you're liking, us kind of going step by step over the whole phrase. So next week, well, not next, yeah, this week, Thursday, God willing, we'll go on to the next, which is some people accept, but they don't receive. What's the difference? What's the nuanced differences between accepting and receiving? So that's what we were talking about. And I got to get back on my scenarios for you guys. So I have to think of some to get back on that because those are always fun, at least for me, to hear you guys' feedback and you becoming the therapist and letting me know the resolutions to my, like, imaginary people relationship issues. So I'll make sure that after we kind of go through this whole, expansive conversation of the statement that we'll get back to it. All right. But absolutely enjoyed the conversation today. Thank you guys for coming on. I'm going to let you guys go because it's late and some of you might have school, some of you might have work, etc. So definitely, if you loved anything that you heard, like, comment, and subscribe to my Forever Friends Academy YouTube channel. Get the algorithm moving my content into so that more people, some more eyes can hear it and see it. And if you want to dive deeper, I do private coaching for individuals and couples. So you can go on my site, Forever Friends Academy, to kind of dive into it deeper. All right. The link will be in the description if you're on, like, YouTube or Facebook, and if you're on Instagram, you can go to my link in the bio. All right, but absolutely, dame beso. I don't even know if I said that right. I'm sorry for the Spanish people. I probably said that so wrong, but yeah, I'm just sending out kisses. That's what I meant. Until next time, guys, always remember to live to love freely. Until next time, bye.